Thank you for having me.
I got Jada Revlon here. Thank you so much for making it out here in New York City.
Yeah.
So tell the people a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally? And
Okay, so originally I'm from, well, I was like in my childhood and elementary school, I was raised in Gary, Indiana. And then from high school on up, I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I met like all of the people that taught me how to Vogue and my best friend Varsity.
So Varsity taught you how to Vogue?
No, it's just that like one day I really didn't know what any of it was. I was just watching it on YouTube, you know, of course seeing Cassandra, Pony, Leomi, and you know, these people do these amazing things and wondering what's going on, right? But I never really thought that like it would ever be anywhere where I was. That was one thing. When I was a kid, I was looking for like things to do. Like looking for like a way to get out of the house and to be free and to be, you know, to express myself. And I went downtown Charlotte. First time, I met Dominique Revlon, legendary Dominique Revlon. And I asked him, like, where do like the young kids go? Where do the young gays go? And he was like, oh, they just go down to the transit. And I said, how do you get to the transit? He said, just stay on the train. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I ride the train probably about 8 to 9 stops, and the only train in Charlotte anyway, or probably at that time. And the first place I come to is the transit. Get off the transit, and the first person I meet is actually Varsity. And he looks at me and he says, you gay? And I say, yeah, is you gay? He said, yeah.
And this is before you transition?
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is before I transition. And I was like, and he was like, you want to be best friends? And I said, yeah. What's your name? He said, Pepper. I said, well, my name's Salt now. And from that moment on, we kind of like looked out for each other for, you know, until the very end, I guess.
And he passed away, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did.
That must have been real hard on you.
Yes, very hard. Actually, like me and him, I know, first of all, he was, you know, the first, other than Dominique, first gay person I ever met in my life. And he took me, you know, we went through a lot together. We stayed at this person's house, slept under this bridge, did, you know, ran around here, this place, that place. We lived in Vegas together, we lived in LA, we lived in...
Y'all lived life together.
Yeah, we lived life together. My first ballroom tour was actually because he was ready to go. He just said, come on, best friend, let's go. Of course, it angered people that actually cared about us, that didn't want us to leave Charlotte, but apparently it was for the better, right?
Yeah. So, what was the first ball you ever went to?
First ball I ever went to was Dia Ball. I can't remember what year it was. It was probably like 2009. And then, like a couple months later, Varsity and I had gathered up a little bit of know-how, and we decided to walk the ABC Ball 2010, and like, I think that was like January or February or something like that. And we walked Virgin. I got chopped. Varsity stayed one battle and then lost. And that was kind of like our moment. That was our defining moment. I remember meeting Selvin and Jack in that night. And like, I didn't know, you know what I mean? I didn't know how vocal or how verbal that Jack and Selvin were. You know what I mean? So when they called me Miss Sunshine, I thought they were being shady, or I thought they were reading me and stuff like that. But later on, they explained that, you know, it's just because you were smiling while you were voguing for whatever reason. So yeah, I guess the first ball I walked was the ABC Ball 2010, but the first ball I ever went to was the Dia Ball. Yeah.
So, how many houses have you been in since you came out?
Mizrahi, Herrera, Chanel, Khan, and now Revlon, so 5.
And you've been in Revlon the longest?
Yeah. I guess you can, yeah, because Revlon's been like the last 5-6 years for me.
Okay.
Every other house is like maybe a year or maybe 2. I was in Chanel for like 2 years. But there's a lot of like underlined, there was a lot of underlined problematic people in that house. And it caused me to leave.
So what was it about Revlon that just made you be like, okay, this is home?
Well, Varsity was always a Revlon. And coming to find out later on, the other guy, Dominique, that I met, he was a Revlon too. He was actually NYC mother or father, I can't remember. And those were my kind of first experiences of what a house is and what they do and house meetings and gatherings and stuff like that. Or at least how it used to be back in those days, right? And then I left Chanel like after my mom passed, and Varsity and I moved. That was when we moved to LA or Vegas, and we were staying with D, West Coast D. And he was like, girl, you're not even a Chanel no more. You might as well come on the Revlon. You know you want to be here. Tony done supported you ever since she was a little bitty tot. I'm here. Your best friend is here. You know, all of these people that were Revlons are your family. So you might as well, you know, like make the transition. And when I did, we started winning like back to back. Between me and Varsity, we won everything in LA and Vegas like that whole little year or whatever. Like Vogue Nights, Major Balls, Oakland, whatever it was, we was out
it's
there.
great because just like with you, I never met him, but it was like I was always a fan of him, watching him on clips, watching both of y'all.
Yeah, carry on. Yeah.
Y'all used to really burn that flow up. So, what is the hottest ball that you could remember? You didn't even have to necessarily win, but just what was your hottest? What was your hottest moment in Ballroom so far?
Well, my hottest moment in Ballroom so far. Sheesh, that's kind of crazy because there are so many moments that like would be considered a hot moment, but
to you.
Yeah, because I don't consider those moments. Those are most of those moments are moments that I lost. I think one of the hottest moments was actually, you know, after Best Friend passed, which is when I went to Miami and did like, you know, beat all the Milans and stuff. Yeah, did the Black Panther Catwoman look and stuff like that, and just had a thing. It was my first time battling Chloe, somebody I really respected, especially for like female figure categories, because I've seen Chloe win like Watch the Throne and Candyland and all that, and like, you know, for me and her to have that mutual respect as like female figures, it was, you know, it was a big moment for me. It was a big moment for me to like get that win on her in her city or in her region. And into that whole weekend was like fabulous. I flew out, we went to restaurants, nice clubs, aftermaths, nice food. Yeah, I just had a really, really great time. And then I was like kind of more developed. So I got to like experience like being free in a whole nother place. You know what I mean? Like normally, or not normally, but before I transitioned, I was very like guarded. I was very to myself, quiet. Varsity would always have been the one to speak up for us or to get us into, you know, whatever troubles that we got into. But when he left, I had to learn how to do that myself. You know what I mean? I had to learn how to like seize life by the bulls or by the horns on my own and not depend on somebody to do it for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you can just take what he tried to teach you, and just, you know.
My best friend didn't try to teach me anything but to not starve to death. But we learned a lot through each other and unintentionally. You know what I mean? We learned what it meant to be an actual friend. You know what I mean? Some of these things that I'm still working on now as an adult. But I know that he's proud of the person I've become, the woman that he sees before him. You know, I know that he looks down on me and be like, yo, that's my best friend. Mm-hmm. And you know, that's so funny that he was that best friend for me. You know how all these like the best friend song and all these videos that come out, and you would think that, you know what I mean, like there would be other people in my life that would be able to fill that void. And I'm not gonna say that nobody has filled that void, but as far as like my best friend, the one that I would do the Doja and Sweetie video with, no, it was him. It was definitely him. Yeah.
Did you find it hard to like continue to like walk or find an inspiration to walk after he passed?
Definitely. I suffered like a whole year and a half of like doubting myself and losing. Like before he passed, we were kind of undefeated, me and him both. We would walk here, win there, realness this, performance that. You know, we were kind of like, for whatever reason, he and I were two people that came up from the South that really stormed NYC. You know what I mean? And made our lives, made our moments, you know what I mean? And made our names here in New York City. And after he left, it was very hard to pick myself up and keep moving. Right. If you even notice, in the majority of my clips before he passed, you can see him somewhere on the sides, yelling and screaming. Same with his clips. You can always see me on the side somewhere laughing and screaming or supporting or hollering best friend, or, you know what I mean? It's hard to move on knowing that that's not there anymore. But change is real, and it's something that we all have to face.
Yeah. Do you find it like to be difficult, like walking, trying to be creative, trying to be like put yourself in your best foot forward while you're in the mourning process? Because how age were you when you lost your mom? Were you in Ballroom then?
Yeah, I was actually 21 years old. I'm kind of old now. But I think, I would be considered grieving now because my boyfriend passed away last April, right? I know it keeps happening to me, and I know, not to me, it keeps happening to the people that I love the most. And I had to realize that there's nothing I can do now. They're gone. All I can do is hope to like pick myself up and be an inspiration to others. That's what really what's making me go on. The people that hit me up and say that I inspire them, or people that look up to my Vogue, or people that watch my clips and say, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't think of that as a point of motivation for myself, but without everybody that, you know, would be giving me that motivation, I had to learn that. So, which is also good, which is also keeping me in Ballroom, because I kind of want to like, just shrivel up and become a nothing.
You can never do that. What are your like aspirations for Ballroom so far? 'Cause, I mean, are you legendary yet?
Well, no, not yet. But I'm.
Were you legend in the Kiki scene?
Yeah, been legendary in the Kiki scene. But it's been kind of like a process with being legendary. First, I don't really care for it. Only because, you know, I kind of have the payback that I wanted to from the 10 years of Ballroom that I've invested. You know what I mean? I'm kind of seeing the benefits already. So, you know, with the title or not means nothing to me. But it would be a very nice honor to, you know, have that status next to my name as so many greats before me. But what I do see myself is like going forward in the future, because I am working with music and video and modeling, I see myself like making all of these I wanted to do like a MILF, not a MILF, but like a kind of like you know, the calendars, right? There are those calendars that people, you know, a different girl for each month or whatever. I wanted to do that, but for trans, for sisters from Femme Queen Performance that, are popping it, that are doing it, that are out there, that are eating it. That was one of the modeling things. I wanted to do a movie, witchcraft, this, that, and the third. Like I wanted it to be like a serious thing. I don't always want it to be like centered around the reality of trans women, because we can do so much more than just be trans.
You want to show that trans people are human.
We are,
as opposed to just being.
And more than humans, we are complex and we are talented. Like more than many of us. I know more than a few of us that can sing, that can write, that can act, that can.
But nobody ever will give you a shot.
Not until I make it. Not until I make it to the point where I can give that shot. You know what I mean?
And just like you're saying, I think it's up to us to create those.
Lanes, right?
Exactly. So
nobody's gonna do it for us. These watered down and electrified versions of ballroom and transgenderism, and those aren't right. They always find some type of way to make us look like a abnormality, when really we are people who are very talented and very much here.
Well, you're very passable, what they say. So do you still feel that judgment from the outside world?
Here's the thing, right? In my recent job and stuff like that, people have been showing me that in this day and age, it kind of doesn't matter anymore. They kind of as I'm starting to take more leadership roles and starting to put my creative input out there, I'm starting to notice that it's not as serious as we used to think it was. Back then, you wouldn't even apply for a job because you were afraid they would turn you down because of what your ID would say. But now they're not even checking that. They want to see what type of worker you are, what you can bring to the company, what you can offer. You know what I mean? And as someone who can offer a lot, the rewards are
Isn't that crazy how things have changed just in our lifetime?
Yes, right? I really find that really funny that. But I'm more than anything grateful. And I'm really grateful that I get to come up in this generation where it's starting to look a more a little less like a big political issue, because that's really what we was for a very long time. Gays and trans people in general were a big political standpoint for Republicans to say that or I'm not gonna get on politics.
I understand what you mean. Everything is politics. I mean,
everything is politics.
Everything
is politics. I could go on and on and on about the atrocities of this American government and its politics, but I choose not to because I'm a pacifist.
Well,
very pacifist.
It's definitely a shit show. So going back to Ballroom, who, you said, Pony, Laomi, who else were some of the people that really pushed you to want to Vogue more, or even maybe some of your competition on the floor at that time that kind of made you want to.
It was really between my best friend and I. We would find people that we would find inspiration from. Mm-hmm. A lot of our inspiration really comes from Cassandra specifically. Mm-hmm. His ability to dip, duck walk, and spin. That's pretty much where we kind of built our Vogue based on that and built around it. And that was kind of a big motivating factor. One thing that changed our Vogue was meeting Boogie. Boogie gave us this whole different perspective on Vogue, especially performance and telling a story. And that kind of really kept us going. But one person, when I was first starting out myself individually, I was heavy on Allura. Heavy on Allura. That is still my mother to this day. I still will look at a clip of this lady and shed a tear because I'm so unfortunate to never have met her and yet have basically, I feel how Beyonce is the Tina Knowles of this century? I feel like I'm the Allura of this century. And well, not me per se, but that's the light that I try to follow, I guess.
Yeah. she inspired you to want to like
Be
take
out the
that same
box.
sauce and put your own spin on it.
Yes. I actually seen a clip of this lady recently telling a story just like I would. Like telling a full out, drawn out story with a plot twist and everything. And I'm just like,
Plot twist.
and here I am thinking like, you know, oh, I'm bad shit, this, that, and the third. I'm telling stories, I'm getting complicated. No, she been originated this. I'm just a ripple in the pond.
Do you think that ballroom's history is being, or has been somewhat lost, like up until a certain point?
Okay, so due to like a lot of like, well, see, a lot of things in ballroom were like, pray tell, you know what I mean? They would say them by word of mouth, you know what I mean? We really are just getting really good documentation of ballroom within the last 2 decades, you know? And
I
that,
wouldn't say that long.
not even that long, like a decade and a half, pretty much. Well, but it's 2020 now. Like,
well, yeah.
Recording, 2000s and...
I forgot how old.
Yeah, it was. You forgot how old you was?
Right.
But, you know, in my mind, it's kind of like the Greek, you know, a lot of the Greek stories. Like, they've been lost to the sands of time, and simply because there was nobody there to record it particularly exact to the, you know, to be factual. But I do see a lot of places like, I mean, a lot of things like Instagram, like, you know, Vogue Like a Woman, or what's the other one? Legendary Vogue or something. It's one of those. There's a few channels out there that are bringing, you know, that bring back moments of history. That's like, so I'm so grateful for. And you know, like, it was one that was mad legendary. It's called Sugar Champagne. It's like a YouTube channel, and under there has all of like the nitty-gritty parts about a ballroom, the reasons why we vogue the way we vogue today. Those are all in it. Like the whole record list of that is in there. But you know what the worst part is? Nobody watches it because they're so busy focused on what the girls of this day are doing. You know what I mean? What or what Devo or what Laomi or what Ty, and you know what I mean? Where they're so focused on what we're doing that they don't really have that like tradition of Vogue. You know what I mean? It's all about a stunt these days. All about the Matrix.
Yeah. I feel like it's just a black issue, because when you look at black people's history, I mean, all across the board, they would literally just try to just erase it or rewrite it.
Yes, they do.
So I feel like ballroom is no different. I feel like until the mainstream scene, like, oh, there's money in it. Right. Nobody cared to even touch it. That's the thing about it. A lot of like, and I do kind of find issue with this, because this has been a topic on Facebook recently about how the non-colored population are taking Vogue and throwing a spin on it and then calling it techno Vogue or Vogue, you know what I mean, or something else, like trying to branch off of our, you know, tradition, our legacy. And I think that it's like weird, and that's really colonizer to me. That's very colonizer to me. But it happens. You know what I mean? Like it happens. Yeah. Like, I mean, to be honest, ballroom is copying what? The pageantry scene, to be honest. That's where it started. That's where it started with Crystal LaBeija not getting the life that she deserved and wanting to make something of her own for her own girls to get that light and shine. And while that's all nice and dandy and we have evolved into our own thing, we cannot not accept the change and the influence that Vogue has on today's America. Because it really does. Like, it really does. You see everybody in these little dance videos in these studios, and they're doing a whole hip hop dance, and then they'll throw a dip in there or a piece of hands. And they don't really understand where it's coming from. Yeah. You know what I mean? They don't really know how to. I always say it's because they're not from the culture.
Yeah, okay, that's the best way of putting it. Because I was gonna say it another way.
Because it's like everybody.
Because they're not being black. That's why. I really feel like
for real. Like it's like, you know, when you from the culture, it's kind of like you already understand.
You have that. You know what I mean? You have that locked in the grid. You know, I don't know what it is, but. And we've seen even, you know, black women, black cisgender women trying to get out there and Vogue. And while some of them do great, a lot of them it still looks like it's missing that certain sissy. You know what I mean? It's missing that certain aspect of sissy that it looks like watered down Vogue. and it's looking like watered down Vogue all across the board. And they're profitizing off of it, sadly. Like there's a clip of my nephew Tay on TikTok with 1 million freaking views. 1 million. And the title or the hashtag under it says, Techno Vogue going wild, going apeshit. That's my nephew. That's him walking a ball. That's him getting his tins. That's not, I mean, yeah, he went apeshit. Yes, he went crazy. Yes, he ate that. But for it not to come from a person in the ballroom scene and get 1 million likes is like funny to me. You know what I mean? Like that's not, did you pay for these? Like, is you using payola? Are the people using payola these days? Or what is it?
I don't know.
I'm trying to understand.
Like I said, I think it's just for us to make our own story. That's one of the reasons why I started Vogue practice because, and I love seeing the white girls Vogue, but at the same time, I do think that we need representation for our girls that's out there. Like, because it started with y'all. So why don't I see a plethora of those videos as well? I still want to see the white girls, but I want to see where it started.
I want to see it where it started. Yeah. And I want to see, first of all, to be honest, you're never really going to replicate that hot, live, raw adrenaline that ballroom really is, that real life ballroom is. You're never going to feel, nobody on the outside of Vogue is never going to feel the night of a ball, that walking that category, that getting that adrenaline, hearing the speakers, listening to Jack and Selvin, 1, 2, Shimmy and Lou, like they're never going to, really feel that. So while it's cute that they can, branch off and do their own thing, but they'll never have the real thing. And that's why, that's the piece of acceptance that I've come with. You know what I mean? That a lot of people, they may try to replicate, they may try to duplicate, but they will never have it. Yeah. Exactly.
So, you mentioned Jack Selvin. Who has been your favorite commentators to vote to? Who's your favorite commentator to vote to, and who have you never voted to that you would like to? Living or dead?
I would, okay, this is my thing, right? Like, when I was in the nitty gritty, I was voting to Kevin, Jay-Z, and Selvin and Jack. And those are the voices that carried me to a lot of my hottest moments and a lot of my grand prizes. So that's, of course, those of course are my favorites. But the way these new generations, these Preciouses, these Snookies, the Iagos, the Jukebox, oh my God, Jukebox is kind of like, to me, a mini Kevin, and I love when they yell in my ear. It really does something to me when you yell in my ear and tell me to vote down. I really do. But who I haven't vogued to, I don't know, I'm pretty much vogued all over. So like there are a lot of people that I have vogued to, a lot of people in the DC area like Chabre and a lot of those kids out there that are commentating that are really doing a great job, but because they're not here, they're not getting the life and the bookings that, you know what I mean, that they should deserve, right now, Snooki, Precious, and Barrel are basically ruling the country, and it doesn't, I love them both, like, deeply. They have actually carried me to some of my grand prizes, too. They have, actually. And this is the only time, see, this is the thing about this generation of commentators and stuff like that. I actually got to, like, meet and bond. You know what I mean? Now, I got to bond with Selvin, with my grandma Selvin, a couple of times, especially when I was a con and stuff like that. But, like, as far as, like, one-on-one interaction, like, Precious is my wife, Jukebox is my Ollie, like, Snooki's my snooker booger. Those are people that, like, they've become so close to my heart. You know what I mean? And I wasn't able to get that when I was a young Chanel or a young Revlon coming up in the scene, I guess. And it's because they were, at that point, they were already kind of on this global scale. You know what I mean? And I wasn't either a Mizzo or a Khan or a Gucci, so it's kind of like, but I kind of like it better that, I do know and love my commentators.
So, describe yourself in 5 words or less.
Angel, sinner, illustrative, creative, and peaceful.
Great. Now, thank you so much for coming. I want people to check out your YouTube channel. Tell them about your YouTube channel.
So, on YouTube, we have a channel, my brother and I. His name is Jaden, how typical vlog. Our channel is called Hood Privilege. There we review all types of foods from all different types of cultures. You can also follow my YouTube page and his YouTube page at Aries or at Jada Bae XXIV to check out some of our music and a lot of the other things that we have going on. Yeah.